everyone. This is Materasso from the Republican Party for America, the RPA. Today is January 8th, 2013, and today's podcast will be on the Fiscal Cliff Deal. Alongside me, I have Dan Dioria, another co-founder of the RPA. Dan, how are you?
Hey man, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Let's jump right into things. So Dan, tell me a little bit about the Fiscal Cliff Deal that recently happened on January 1st, 2013.
Well, Matt, on the Republicans and the Democrats, they compromised and said that people making $400,000 or more will have a tax increase.
Right.
Social Security tax is going to be increased, and Obamacare is separate, but we'll get to that later. The spending cuts, there's not going to be any for right now. They'll talk about it later. And the ramifications, this is what I was talking about Obamacare.
Right.
With everything, Obamacare, the new Fiscal Cliff Deal, 78% of Americans, their taxes are going to be increased. And I think everyone's paycheck is going to be decreased by 1%.
Right.
That might not seem like a lot, but it is a lot.
So everyone's taxes, including the wealthy and the middle class,
That's the important thing.
and in all tax brackets, taxes have gone up. For the middle class, taxes have gone up $2,000 from, according to numerous reports.
And that's a big deal because President Obama said during his campaign last year that he was a big supporter of the middle class, and he said the taxes will not go up with the middle class, but look, they are. So a lot of people that voted for President Obama are pretty angry with him.
Right, and especially with taxes on the middle class and, them having gone up, that ultimately affects how people are going to be spending their money because their overall income is going to be less than it was in the previous year.
Yes, and that's a big deal because that's going to affect the economy a lot because the economy is going to be probably negatively affected by this because people are not going to be spending anymore, really.
Right, and they're not going to be spending more because they don't have as much money in their pocket as previous year. So let's head back to the fiscal cliff. And the fiscal cliff was mostly dealt with the signing of the American Taxpayer Relief Act of 2012, which was passed by the United States Congress on January 1st, 2013, which was then signed by President Obama. But what exactly was the American Taxpayers Act of 2012, and what did it do for the American people? Well, it was an act that was extended. It extended certain tax relief provisions enacted by former President G.W. Bush, and also provided for expedited consideration of a bill providing for a comprehensive tax reform as well as for other purposes.
All right, so let's get to our next segment here on Rand Paul. He's going to be discussing the fiscal cliff. He says that the Fiscal Cliff Deal is a joke. So let's see.
And even though that's what the video is called, basically Ron Paul, the senator from Kentucky, is talking about his opinion and his reactions toward the deal.
All right, let's listen to it.
But you have to understand what the fiscal cliff is. You have to understand that the president is telling you that it's a cliff and it's bad, and everybody on television thinks it's terrible to go over the cliff. What is the cliff? Taxes going up. But if it's bad for taxes to go up for a bunch of people, why is it good for taxes to go up only on a small portion of people? He said, well, they're rich, they can afford it. Here's the problem. The rich pay most of the taxes in our country. The top 2% pay half of the taxes. So what you're saying is they're rich and they can absorb it, but that's half of the nation's income will have increased taxes. You will take money from the productive sector, which is the private sector, and you will put it into the non-productive sector, which is Washington. So if you want ditches to be dug and then to be filled up again, send more money to Washington. Now, Milton Friedman recognized this when he said, nobody spends someone else's money as wisely as you spend your own. That in a nutshell, that in one sentence, explains to you why the private sector is more efficient than the public sector. The public sector, it's not our money. It's not their money. So those of up here who will spend it, that's why they spend $1 trillion more than they have each year. That's why they break their own budgetary rules. That's why there's no budget. That's why we live in an era of runaway spending. That's why your government is insolvent. Your government is bankrupt. The one thing they're taking off the table is spending restraint. There will be no spending restraint. In fact, whatever deal comes out of here will increase spending. That's part of the deal. We're going to raise taxes and we're going to raise spending. Tell me what's good about that.
There's absolutely nothing good about that.
Nope. So let's get to our next segment here. We're going to talk about.
Well, I think we should talk about Ron Paul's video.
About what he said. All right. Well, he said basically what we said already, but everyone's taxes are going to be going up. Basically, everyone.
Right.
And
there's 78% of all Americans.
Yep.
And that's, really concerning. And what Ron Paul said in his video with the taxes and all of our money is going to Washington. Washington right now is not being productive. America has to focus its money on the private sector, which is American made businesses.
Small businesses. And not the government jobs and all that. That's what he's basically saying. And, that's basically it.
Okay, so now we're going to... the RPA has a Facebook page. You guys can look it up, the Republican Party for America. And what we do on this Facebook page is we have all of our members post articles, photos, or whatever it may be, their opinions and whatnot, whatever. But what we do before we release a podcast is we put a group event up on Facebook, explaining what the next podcast will be talking about. And it gives our members the chance to give their opinions on whatever the topic may be. So this event was on the Fiscal Cliff, and we had a lot of hits of many different people commenting on their opinions.
Yeah, so a couple days ago I posted to our group a question. I posted, what is your opinion on the Fiscal Cliff Deal? We got many responses, like Matt said. Mark Bianchi said, quote, I think it's a shame, meaning Republicans cave to their principles and Democrats could care less about anything but uncontrolled spending. Politicians are so blanking greedy.
And that's true. The Democrats and the government, right now there is uncontrolled spending. As you've just seen, the debt ceiling has gone up.
Well, it hasn't gone up yet. Those discussions are not going on yet, but
it'll go up. The Democrats
we hope not.
Most of them, the majority, and most likely will go up. Even though
I don't know,
we don't want it to.
Let's hope the Republicans remain.
All right, so we had Mr. Gooden over here said that the Senate only had 6 minutes to read the bill. Those who signed it did not read it. That's true. This document on the Fiscal Cliff Deal was hundreds and hundreds of pages, if not thousands. So obviously, all these people aren't going to be reading every word for word. And if they did, in Senate, but it's great for them that they read the whole thing.
Yeah, it's suspicious because it was done so quickly, got together all so quickly that I don't know how they could have read every single detail.
And when you do things quick, relating to government or relating to your own personal decisions, always maybe doing something so quickly isn't always the best thing. You want to think things through and make sure that you're making the best decision possible.
Yep. All right. So Linda, she said, quote, "Ripoff. Obama created the cliff for his convenience over a year ago. The actual blank is going to be more than a cliff. It will be Obamacare $1 trillion taxes that cannot be divided by middle or upper class. It will be everybody in this country that has a job." So we're just going to stop right there. So she's right. Obamacare is going to increase taxes on every American, 78%, but it's a lot of the majority of Americans.
Obamacare is one of the stupidest things out there, I think. That's my personal opinion.
Yes. It's yeah.
Because it's not, beneficial to most Americans. You have Obamacare taking money from other people that they, worked hard for, and it's just not right to take the money from them.
Exactly, and you're forcing people to have health care.
So. Whether it was from, the most wealthy Americans or whether it's from the middle class.
Yep.
All right, so the next comment we had here was from Joella Grayson. I guess, and I quote, "I guess we Americans that really care better make a better showing at the polls. I'm very disgusted that there are still so many people supporting him, Obama, even after his lies are exposed," end quote.
Yes, that's basically what we said before. He basically lied to the American people when he said that, especially the middle class, when he said that their taxes will not go up during the campaign, right. And they are going up, so he lied. So that's what Joel is talking about.
And my response to what she's saying about the polls, and that's true, the American people need to go to the polls and vote who they really think, will be a better president for this country. And, for the people that don't go out and vote, you need to go out and vote. Even though you might not think that it makes a difference, it does. And that's one of the things that the RPA wants to promote.
We want to promote not only voting, but educational voting. People voted so just on the face. They didn't look into the details.
Right. And now, Obama's cool.
And now they're paying for it. I mean, like Matt just said, I heard someone say at my school that they like Obama because he's, quote, cool.
I've talked to numerous Democrats. I know a couple of people at NYU, New York University. I'm talking to them. They're Democratic. I ask them, why'd you vote for Obama? And their response is, because he's cool. What kind of response is that? Do you really just vote for a president because he's cool? I mean, you answer the question. And if it's yes, then, you really got to think things through.
Yes, and it's important to be educated because now you're seeing if you're mad at Obama, now you're being paid for it. I mean, if you actually looked into what he was running, what he was going to do, this is what was going to happen. You kind of saw this coming, kind of. All right, so we're going to move on to our next segment here, our last segment.
Our last segment, we have a video here from Bill O'Reilly, and it discusses the Fiscal Cliff Deal and how it's going to affect and deal with your future.
American, every one of us. Those who are doing well.
Watch out, everyone. I'm sorry about that. All right, here we go.
I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching the first show in 2013. Happy New Year. President Obama's true agenda emerges. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. You may have noticed the factor has not covered the fiscal debate very much. Not going to use that cliche. Not going to say it. That's because it was a fake crisis, as the Wall Street Journal says today in its lead editorial. The deal Congress struck last night could have been done last August. But the politicians in both parties wanted to posture, setting up phony scenarios for their own personal aggrandizement. So here's what's really going on. President Obama has succeeded in raising taxes on every working American, every one of us. Those who are doing well will now pay close to 50% of their income to the feds. Those making below $400,000 a year will pay a variety of new Obamacare taxes and see a 2 percentage point rise in their Social Security payments. So everybody gets hit. If you invest, you'll be paying about 9 percentage points more in capital gains and dividends tax. If you die and your estate's worth more than $5 million, you'll pay 40% of death tax to the feds. President Obama is not finished. He wants more from the affluent.
We can't simply cut our way to prosperity. Cutting spending has to go hand in hand with further reforms to our tax code so that the wealthiest corporations and individuals can't take advantage of loopholes and deductions that aren't available to most Americans.
Ooh, there's no question now, no question, that the American people have voted for a president who wants to redistribute income. He's not going to stop. The socialist tenet where central government takes and gives as it pleases. That will have many unintended consequences, beginning with the economy. If the higher tax rates slow business in the USA, then President Obama's second term will be a disaster. Also, it's now clear that Mr. Obama doesn't much care about federal spending. You simply don't run up deficits of more than $1 trillion a year, even with all this new revenue. Even with that, you don't run up those deficits if you're concerned about fiscal responsibility. Clearly, the president has not offered any meaningful spending cuts or entitlement reform. And after 4 years, he has not offered any solutions to the crushing $16 trillion debt. Now, in the past, that would have sunk an incumbent president, not today. Talking Points believes Mr. Obama won the election largely on emotion. Millions of voters supported him because Mitt Romney didn't really run his campaign with any urgency or emotional appeal, while Mr. Obama promised working Americans stuff. So now, we're all in the same lifeboat. President Obama is going to take as much money as he can from successful people and dole it out. He's not going to make any meaningful cuts in government spending. Not going to do it. And he might even expand the entitlement culture. I believe this will lead to economic disaster for the country. But as always, I could be wrong. And that's the memo. Now the top.
All right, guys, that was the Bill O'Reilly clip.
And what he was saying was very true in that most every American is going to be taxed, whether it's a lot of money or a little amount of money, based on your income. You know, obviously the numbers are going to be different, but it all affects each person based on the amount of money they make.
Exactly, Matt. So we're going to wrap it up here. We want to remind people to visit our website, www.therepublicanpartyforamerica.com, and also visit our RPA store. We recently put up an RPA t-shirt and bumper sticker and a mug. Stephen Pedro, we did that for you, so there you go. If you have any items that you want to personalize for the RPA, just email us at therepublicanpartyforamerica@gmail.com. And thank you, and talk to you next time.